The value proposition there comes in when you can control the network end to end, and if mobile operators basically sort of start trusting us to do that, to really be neutral, right? I mean, and really approach it from a neutral perspective. So I think that's the direction we see the evolution of neutral hosts in our environment going to, because otherwise telcos by and large are very specific about that control point, saying, okay, you know what, you do the passive, I will do the active, and let's keep that separate.
Well, we do put the demarcation at the operator of this asset controlling the asset essentially entirely, right? So if you look at the fiber co, for example, they could be offering FTTH or a tower co, they could be offering an FTTH as a service, right? But getting just to the last splitter, right? But you can also have an FTTH as a service that goes all the way to the ONT, to the premise. And it's that control that determines that it's a neutral host.
The typical neutral host scenario, which is more DAS-centric, or think of it as a DAS, to actually including the radio access network as a whole. So now brings in the operators, how do they bring in to the equation, and how do they sort of allow sharing across operators from the same common infrastructure model. Facilitate the sort of ecosystem taking off is the mechanism of cooperation between operators. That needs to be really worked out very well. So if you look at a DAS deployment, they're fairly independent except for some sharing arrangements. But when you start looking at an end-to-end architecture with ORAN, now there's a whole management plane and there's a lot more sort of sharing that has to happen. So to the extent that these cooperation models can be sort of set in stone and cookie cutterized, and then for somebody else, like a neutral host operator, to take that and scale, that would be, I think, the right model. What we believe is that the network architectures that have to evolve have to be flexible to support various combinations. So that's very important because we don't have an answer that fits all. So whether it's a public network or a neutral host network that comes first with a private 5G as an add-on or vice versa, and we've been debating this, we don't want to prescribe the answer, or the architecture should be flexible. Whether it takes an ORAN input or a traditional RF input, the system should be able to do that because in all cases, the distribution and the base station capacity may not be the same from the same person.
It's also important to note that this market has a component that is greenfield deployment and another component that is upgrade, right? Slated for upgrade. I mean, today, 2% of the addressable buildings, only 2% globally, have some sort of a system inside. So there's a lot to be done. It's a very, very big opportunity.